Hey guys, this is John again. I guess you're wondering why I'm sitting on the toilet. Well, that happens to be the project for today. I actually have 3 of them in this house, actually 4 that need to be done, but I'm only going to work on 3. So you might be wondering, why am I replacing a toilet? This toilet seems to be working just fine. The problem is this toilet's very inefficient. Probably uses 2, 3, 4 gallons, up to, some of them use up to, well no, I think this is only 1.5 to 2 gallons of flush. But what I plan to be putting in, which I'll show you in a minute, is a new efficient toilet that it has buttons on it, one for number 1 and one for number 2. And they're very good. We used to have one made by American Standard. There's a bunch of other companies make them. These go for about $149 each. What's good about this one, I mean, I think there's one that goes for like $99, but it's a short stall with a round bowl. This toilet is a little bit taller, and the bowl is a little elongated. It's more comfortable to sit on. You're only going to need 3 tools for this whole job. Toilets aren't that difficult. You definitely need some gloves, some nice vinyl or heavy duty work gloves that won't, not the latex gloves, those will split on you and your fingers will pop out of them. But get some really nice thick gloves that allow you to do your work but keep your hands clean, because this is quite unsanitary when you get the old bowl up. There's a wax ring that you have to clean out, and you have to clean out the pipe, and you also have to make sure none of that debris goes down in the pipe, in the drain. A good pair of channel locks would help. Most of the connections you can undo by hand, but sometimes they get a little tight, and you got to start off with a wrench. And then a good large size flat screwdriver to take the seat off of the toilet, usually a plastic nut, and sometimes the nut on the bottom gets tight. But if you open up the little cover that's right behind the seat, and I'll show you that in a little bit, you can take there's a slot, there's usually a slotted top on top of the plastic screw, and that'll help you get it loose so you can take the seat off. I wanted to show you a couple of things though that happen that a lot of people don't know about, and that's usually with cleaners. Some cleaners can actually stain the bowl and stain the seat if you don't wipe it off quick enough. Bleaches, you can use some bleaches to try to get it off, but sometimes if you leave it on too long, it'll stay there forever. One of them is those little toilet wands. Those little toilet, they're in a little plastic bag, and they have a little white wand, and you hook it on there and it cleans the bowl real good. But a lot of times that blue cleaner will get under the seat or get under the lid and fall back behind it, and if you don't clean that, it'll stain, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so this is the seat lid. If you lift it up, see some of that blue? That's from those wands if it's not cleaned off. Now what usually happens is you clean this, and then you put it down, you think you got it clean, and then some of it is on the edge and it drips down, and then the drops stay right there, and it stains the lid. On the seat, see, I have a little bit here, there's one there, and then underneath, around this edge, it just stained it. It just takes bleach to get that off, so it's a lot of work. So, another thing is, this is the lid. Take this lid off. Set it aside. And this is pretty common for most toilets. This is called a ball cock. And this is a float, and this is your drain. Water comes up through the ball cock. Excess flows through here, fills the tank. When the tank gets so high, the float comes up. So like if I push this float down, you hear it starts to fill. This is what shuts the water on and off. When I flush, it goes all the way down, and then it fills back up, and the excess goes through here, and then the float starts coming up. When it gets up high enough, it shuts off. Now, if you have one of these toilets and you're not replacing it, and you constantly hear water running, that usually means that the water is not filling up. The water's filled up so much that it's draining through here, and it's not going up all the way. So what you need to do is you need to loosen this. You turn it to the left. That brings the float lower, so it will pop up earlier. You don't want the water to fill beyond this drain, because if it does, the water will keep filling and going down, and because the float doesn't come up high enough, it will just keep running. A lot of times you'll hear your toilet in the middle of the night come on and then shut back off. Usually that means that the drain down at the bottom, which is a little plunger that's hooked to this. Now if I lift this up, you should see it open. See that open? If that seal gets old, which they can, I mean, they'll get so old where you'll see black rubber will come off in your hand. If that seal does not seal properly and water slowly leaks through there, the toilet will fill to a certain amount, and then inside the toilet, over here, right there is called an S-trap. Water fills through here and then comes around here, but the water stays right here. And until water fills up high enough to go around, the water won't flush. If water slowly seeps through that seal, this will come up and a little bit of water will drain through, which will drain the tank slowly. And then you'll hear the toilet filling back up every few minutes. That usually means that seal's gone bad. So, first thing you got to do is come down here and turn this drain off. Now this drain, you can see it's loose. That's because it's just PEX pipe. It's not brass. You have to be careful when you're tightening up that nut on that valve if it's PEX, because you could literally twist it too much and break the seal on that PEX. If it's brass or steel or galvanized pipe, then you can go ahead and tighten it up. But if it's PEX, you have to be careful. And then you have this braided pipe that goes up to the bottom of the toilet. That has a nut underneath it. That's a pressure fitting. You don't need any kind of Teflon tape or anything like that for it. It just screws on to the bottom of the toilet and has a little washer on it. So once you tighten it up, once you've turned the water on, go ahead and flush and hold it. You want all the water to drain as much as possible until it's about as empty as it can get. And I usually just keep letting it go till it's pretty much gone. See those nuts, that screw down there with that flathead? That's another thing you'll need for the flathead. There's two of them, one on each side, and that's what connects the tank to the bowl. Now that we don't have any water, you can see we still have water here. Two things you can do is get a plunger and try to push the water as much as you can. Just keep pushing. Try to get it over that, trying to get the water over that track and get it drained as much as possible. Okay, my next step is to separate the tank from the bowl. Well, first I got to take the seat off and then separate the tank from the bowl. Okay, so here's the bowl. You have some parts that you have to learn about. These are the little covers. You take these covers and with a screwdriver, pop these covers off. There you go. And you can see that plastic nut and the slot that you can stick a flathead screwdriver in. Underneath is a plastic nut right there, if you can see it. Sometimes that gets too tight and you'll have to use the flathead screwdriver to get this off. You take that off and then you have another one. Get up under it. Come on, there it goes. Take that off. All right, so to get the seat off, you should be able to hold the plastic nut underneath and unscrew this nut. Now this screw it's like pushed into the seat, depending on how old yours is. It might just be, it could be a metal nut or screw or plastic, it doesn't matter. You just want to, this one here, as it comes down, almost there. And take that off, toss it over there. Then we got another one over here. So you can see where this is actually pushed into the seat. You can probably get it where you can pull it out like that. So we set the seat aside. And we got little nasties. They're pretty long. There we go. That's that and that. Done. Now, there is so this one has an actual steel nut. These two bolts that come through from the top, there's a steel nut on the bottom. So I'm going to use my channel locks to grab hold of that. And usually, once you get that started, with your screwdriver, move some stuff out of the way. So the handle, and this is pretty different on most toilets. The handle has a little nut that holds it together. it's kind of stripped. So I don't have a long enough screwdriver to go all the way down, but all I got to do is enough to hold it to get it started. Actually, no, I thought I had. There is a rubber if these have been in for a while, oh, forgot. You're gonna still have a little water in the tank. When you go to pull out these nuts, put a towel down underneath because they're gonna, that little bit of water is definitely gonna drain out. Oh, it looks like this has 3 nuts. Here's one. Now if you can reach the nut and you can reach the screw, you might be able to hold it. Yeah, this one's working. You can hold it by hand and unscrew it. There we go. There's 2. And we got one more over here. There it goes. If your toilet's not that old, it's not going to be that difficult. If it's been around for a while, it will probably have some rust. There's a washer that goes in it. You can see how nasty that gets. And one more. Okay, now underneath here, like I showed you, there's a nut, and you should be able to twist it by hand. They're usually not that difficult to take off. There it goes, and that's to the water line. What I would do is look at this. There's a rubber washer in there. This one looks pretty good. Doesn't look that big of a deal. It doesn't look that bad. So once you remove the nuts that hold the tank and the water line, your tank should just come right off. Gonna move the water around. Maybe pour what's left out. Set that aside. And now what you got left is your bowl. At this point, it's time to don some gloves, because it's gonna get nasty. All right, so here's what we got. You have this nut right here. There's one on each side. His little cover. Just twist. Oh, see, now my hands are all wet. Let me get my screwdriver. Put that screwdriver up under there. Pop it up. And you can see you just have a little nut there. And then you have another one on this side. Pop that one off. Come on. Get up there. There it goes. Let me take that off. The only thing that's holding that on is this little plastic ring. Then, take your channel locks, loosen up that nut. Should only be a couple turns, and then it should come right up. Take that off. Same thing here. A couple turns. It should. There you go. All the nuts are off. Now you pull the bowl up. Now I want to remind you, this bowl has water in it. When you pull it up, it's going to drain some more water. You want to pull the bowl up this way because you want to keep the water in the trap as much as possible. You're still going to lose some water, and that's why you have the towel. All right, so another thing you might want to get is a nice trash bag, because when you pull this bowl up and you go to get that wax ring, I show you a nice clean way to get it out, get all that wax stuff out without making a mess. So take yourself a little garbage bag from Target, Walmart, or whatever, and just have it over here. So, all right, got my gloves. Grab the bowl. Lift it up. Bring it back. And there is your wax ring. Slide this out a little bit. Take your trash bag, stick your hand in it, use it as a glove, reach in, now this wasn't, so it looks like they just put wax all the way around. So looks like I might have to get like a putty knife and get all this up. Usually a wax ring has a, there's like a rubber cone that goes down into, actually it goes up into the toilet bowl. The toilet bowl has a flange on the on the bottom side of it, and then you use the wax ring to stick it to the bowl. I'll show you that when we install the new one. But I gotta clean all that out. All that wax has to come out. All that brown stuff is wax. That's what seals the toilet to the floor. So let me get this cleaned up and I'll be back. Okay, so I got it all cleaned out. Here it is here. Then all you do is just pull the bag over, wrap it up, and throw it away. Actually, still want to use the bag a little bit because your new toilet should come with all your hardware. So I don't know if you can see this, but these screws or these nuts are then tightened onto this blue flange. You just loosen it up a little, and then you can slide it over to where there's an opening, and then you turn the screw and take it out. Put it in the trash. Do this one. You don't need to loosen the nut all the way. You just need to loosen it enough so you can slide it over and pull it out of the slot. This slot, if I can get some of this wax out, it's all covered in wax down in here. So get this off my screwdriver. So if you can see, the slot has a, I'll get a closer picture because it doesn't look like we can get close enough the way it is right now. These are a couple shims that they use to level the toilet. And then I want to kind of get some of the water cleaned up. Okay. So, this is now ready for your new toilet. If you're planning on taking a couple days, a week, maybe you're remodeling and you're gonna retile the floor, take a towel and shove it down inside the drain. Don't put it so it goes in the drain, just do it so you want to cap the drain off. The reason why is the trap in the toilet prevents any methane gases from the sewer system from coming back out into the house. Because you've taken the toilet off, you've taken that trap off. This prevents gases from escaping back up into the house. You don't want that to happen. So if you're not going to replace the toilet right away, cover the drain. Me, I'm going to do it right away. In the next part of this video, I'm going to unbox the new toilet. Let me pull this off of here. Kind of give you a good look at the flange. See if I can get down there. You can see how those slots have like an opening on one side. That's so you can slip the nut in and then slip the nut from the side, wedge it in, and then take it to the skinny side. That's what holds the nut in place. So let's unbox a new toilet. So, this is the new toilet. It is an American Standard Cadet 3 dual flush. Let's see what we got. It's like Christmas in the bathroom. Okay. Let's see. Where's my So first thing we have, good old environmentally safe foam. So this is the lid. I'll explain something about this. The lid already has the plunger 2-button mechanism built into it. One, and I guess that's a 2, but that's what it's for. Pull off this plastic, and then there you go. It's nice and pretty. Chrome. I think it's plastic. I'm going to set that aside. We have to set it to where we don't damage the buttons underneath it. Next is the bowl. Now the great thing about this toilet is the bowl cock, float, and all that is already installed. Everything's already installed and put in it. It's about as easy as it gets. Let's set that aside. Next, more cardboard, is our seat and our kit, our hardware kit. Just open this up. One thing about this kit is it comes with everything you're going to need, including tools. I'm going to show you. So, you open it up. These are the little caps that go to the bowl that cover the nuts that come out of the flange in the floor. This is a rubber seal that goes to the bottom of the tank as it gets screwed down onto the bowl. Here's one of your screws. See, it has kind of a square edge. That goes the bowl to the flange. It goes through the flange. This is the new wax ring. As you can see, this one took some damage. But the great thing about this is it's wax. You can go ahead, form it back into shape before you put it on. You just need to make sure that it's going to make a good seal all the way around. Which this should be fine. We're going to cover this up, put the plastic back on it until we're ready. Well, this is your little toolkit that it comes with. This actually goes around the nuts. These are the nuts that go, I think this is the bowl, from the bowl to the ground, with those plastic caps. Then here we have our second bowl nut. Now these are the nuts where we had the bowl, we had the tank to the bowl, had 3 bolts in the old one. This only has 2 bolts in the new one. And then these actually go around and through as it goes through the tank, and I'll show you when we put them in. And actually, I think these this actually has a nut on it already for the tank. These, I think, no, that's these plastic ones here. Yeah, these are the nuts for the bowl to the floor. Now, inside here, we have everything for the tank, or for the seat. The great thing about this Cadet 3 toilet bowl is it has a slow closing seat. I mean, we like it. Nice, and you don't have to worry about hearing people slamming the seats. This is some gaskets, and then these nut and bolt for the seat. You can see they have slots in them too for your flathead screwdriver. Set that aside. Take this out. Now, if you're like any other man, doesn't bother to read the directions, but if you're not, it comes with full directions, everything you need to do this. Pretty simple procedure, but if you're a little intimidated, you can always read the directions. So here's the great thing about this seat. When it's down, it closes slowly. You'll see when we get it put in. When it gets put together, it's slow. It closes slowly. So that we'll set aside. Now comes Big Bubba, or the bowl itself, all the way down in the bottom. Getting it out is kind of fun. To get everything out of the way. Okay. Since we have that in there, should go ahead and put the old bowl into here. This is just a different size bowl, but it'll get to the point where it'll fit. Go. That's that. Take the old tank. The old seat. And the old lid. Then we can take this take this out and get it ready for trash. We have a big trash pickup day. Some of this other trash in here. And we'll be ready for them to come and pick it up. Once I get all this away, then I'll come back and make another video putting this toilet in. All right, so now what we have to do is we have to put these, it'd be nice if I had both of them. So you have to put these that have this flat edge. You see how it's got that slot there. You put it in from the side, turn it, then turn it sideways and bring it over. Now, what I do is I scoop a little bit of this, being careful not to let it fall down the drain. And then I bring it over and I pull it up and I let that wax hold it. And then you take this little flat nut and then you bring it all the way down, making sure that it's sideways. Now you're not gonna, usually if this toilet was right, come on now, get in the right spot. Kind of hard to do with one hand, but you don't need to torque it down tight. You just need to put it so that it's tight enough to hold it in place, and you do want to be able to move it a little bit. So that's what I'm gonna do. There you go, because you're gonna need to line it up with the bowl when you go to put it in place. So I take this, I'll dig a little bit of this wax up, take this one, slide it into place, put some wax in there, and then start putting this one in down. Our part is just doing this with one hand. And, you know, you should have gloves on, but I just don't have mine on at the time. Kind of pull it. Make sure that this nut is lined up. Come on. There we go. So now we're lined up, kind of bring it back a little bit. So now we got those in place. You don't need to worry about getting them super tight. The other one actually had a nut that held it in place. So now what we do is we take our bowl, we lift it up, kind of being careful, lean it up against something. And that is the flange I was talking about on the bottom of the toilet. So what we do is we have our wax ring. Open this up. And you're going to go, make sure it goes all the way around, clear the wax around. And you want this rubber flange to go down into the ground. So this is going to go on the flange. Now what I do is I kind of turn it a little bit to get it so it'll stick. And then pull the rest of this plastic off. Now, the tricky part is laying it down onto the flange, lining up the bolts at the same time. All right, So we have our wax ring well secured. Pick up our bowl, trying not to let it hit the floor. Line up both holes with our nuts. Where's the other nut? There it is. There's one. Here's the other. If you line them both up, you should be able to then squeeze the bowl, push it down to the ground. Make sure that it's centered. That looks pretty good. This plastic is what goes on the bowl that screws on the nut. This goes into the hole that's in the bowl. They don't have to be too tight. They can be hand tight. That's pretty much it right there. And then these cups just snap right on top. Here's the other one. Not sure why that's not focusing. It just snaps on. All right, so here's what we got to do. So here's the tank. And I don't know if you can see the hole down in there. So what you have to do is you have to put this rubber plug inside that hole. Then you take this rubber plug, and there's a hole on the other side. Then you take this nut, you push it all the way through that rubber plug so that it comes out the back side. Like that. Then do the other one. Like that. Then you have this guy. This goes in down, or you can put it on here like that. Line up the two holes with the tank. Doesn't have to squeeze down or anything. You just need to line it up. Then that's where these come in. This goes on the bowl first, and then the nut. This toilet, they're nice to give you a tool. This is for that nut. Usually you can tighten it up pretty good until you start seeing the head move. And that should be good enough. You definitely don't want to over tight these. You want to have it so that, maybe a little more. It's pretty tight. You just want to make sure you got a good seal. Now we have the water line to hook up. This one's kind of it should be the same size. Screw it on hand tight. Next is the seat, which has its hardware. Take the seat, open up these tabs. There's a washer for this, goes right on there. Here's the other one. Now you have two metal washers. One of them is kind of the same shape, the other one's kind of offset. The one that's the same shape goes in here. Loosen up this nut. My nose is a little stuffed up today. Having a hard time breathing through my nose. So actually, you only need the one washer. Goes in top. Push the nut through. And then your plastic nut with the beveled edge goes towards the toilet. The other one in. Now, you want to line your seat up, hold that nut on the back, take your screwdriver, tighten it down. Doesn't have to be overly tight. make sure that's lined up. You can kind of move it around a little bit. Push these down to close them. So you see how the toilet seat now closes slowly. So the only thing we have left is to put on the top. So the first thing we want to do, turn on the water. Again, if you have a PEX, turn on slowly. Try not to twist around any. As it's filling, you want to check that hose connection, make sure it's not leaking. You want to check around the tank, because the tank's now filling up. You want to make sure that's not leaking. We go ahead and let it fill. Usually, these are already, the 1 and 2 are already set to a predetermined flush. You shouldn't have to adjust them. I mean, I've installed these before and haven't had to adjust them. Check around. Those 2 nuts for the bottom of the tank. Make sure they're good. Watch the water as it fills. Okay, so this is going to need to be adjusted. It's full, but the water's still running. There is here's your float. It's obviously not coming up enough. So what we do, there is a flathead. You can actually use your finger. And I think you turn it counterclockwise, and that pushes the float down. So let's see. We're almost there. There's 10 clicks. There it stops. So this blue one is number 1. This white one is number 2. We flush. And watch around the bottom of the toilet. Make sure we've got no water coming out around the bottom of the toilet. That's where your wax ring seals. Now we'll let it fill again. With the number 1, this only uses 1 gallon of water. With number 2, it uses 1.6 gallons. The other one I think was 2 or 3 gallons every time. See if it shuts off now. There you go. Now number 2 uses all that's in the tank. Now these can be adjusted if it doesn't hit, but these hit pretty good. So let's let it fill again. I don't see any water leaking anywhere, which is good. Alright, so there's the finished product. So I wanted to make a couple things clear. One thing is that a lot of people will put a seal around the bottom of a toilet. That's okay, but if you're on a ground floor, if you're on a concrete floor with tile, but if you're on a second floor, sealing that around the edges will prevent, if the wax ring fails and you get a leak and water, when you go to flush it, water will actually come out from the bottom of the toilet and will flow out. That's a pretty good indication that you have a clog or your wax ring has failed. If that is sealed, it will end up leaking around the edge of the flange, and then water could actually seep through from the second floor down onto the first floor. I don't normally seal around a toilet. You can if that's your preference, but it's not really necessary. Another thing is that if the floor has been built up over time where you have tile and then they decided to put laminate and then they decided to put wood on top of that, just as an example, that's going to raise the floor higher than the flange. And what that can do is when you put the wax ring on the back of the toilet and then set the toilet down, you'll notice that the toilet will set flat against the surface of the floor. You won't feel, when you first set the toilet down onto the flange, the pipe, you should feel like a mushy contact. It shouldn't be hard porcelain to tile or porcelain to wood, because that wax ring should impact the flange first. And what happens is then when you push the toilet down onto the floor, it spreads that wax ring out and seals it. If the floor is built up high enough to where the toilet hits the floor before the wax ring, one of the fixes is to add a second wax ring. You can buy a wax ring without the rubber seal, it's just the wax. And then you stick that onto the first wax ring, so that will double the thickness of the wax ring, and then you should feel the wax ring hit, and then you push it down to seal it. There are different size wax rings. There's a thin one and then there's a thick one. But sometimes if your floor is built up so high from the flange down on the floor, you might need to put 2 wax rings to get it to seal properly. Make sure your toilet's nice and secure. It is. You can also do both. And that, it doesn't give you 2.6 gallons, but gives you a little more pressure. And that's it. We now have a nice, efficient toilet that seems to work pretty good. Got any questions? Let me know. Leave any comments and subscribe.